Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Nolly and I just want to show you quickly how we can get the multi-output working when we're using Contact 5 in Logic Pro X. And I'm going to do this using the new GGD library, which is called Modern and Massive. Now this actually isn't the final release version, so it's possible that by the time you've got your hands on it, it's going to look a tiny bit different, but this should still serve perfectly to demonstrate what I'm going to show you. Setting up the multi-output in Contact can be a little bit weird if you've never done it before. But actually, once you know the steps, it's super easy. So just follow me on this and you'll have no problem at all. So the first thing you want to do is create a software instrument that has Contact 5 on it. We want to make sure that it's set to multi-output 16 times stereo. That's quite important here. As this already is, I'll click it just to be sure. There we go. Now, if we go down on the mixer, you'll see just above the solo button, there's this plus sign. If you were to click that a bunch of times, what that gives you are a whole set of auxiliary outputs that will then correspond to the outputs that you want from Contact. Now, as we go into Contact, what you want to be looking at is the output section, which if you don't have it already loaded up as I do, you can go up to this button up here and click Outputs, and that should bring it up. And you might have basically anything going on down here. It might not look like this. In fact, I think the default has a surround sound set up and a few other things on there. For me, that's really not a very useful starting point. So you'll see as we go through this process that we can create a new default way that it opens up that is useful not just for this pack, but for basically anything that you might want to use Contact for, unless you're a surround sound user. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this plus sign next to the word Outputs. And this is going to allow us to create all of the virtual outputs from Contact to Logic. At the moment it's saying 1, I'm going to create 16, which is the maximum total amount. And we want to leave number of channels set to 2. Basically that means that each of those outputs is a stereo output. They have 2 channels. From this drop-down menu here, I would set the soundcard/host output to stereo 1, but make sure that ascending output assignment is ticked. That basically means that our 16 outputs are each going to be ascending. So stereo 1 will be 1 and 2, stereo 2 will be 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. I'm also going to say, let's click this one, delete existing channels. What that's going to do is completely reset the output section of Contact before creating all of these new channels. So it really doesn't matter what you had down there on the output section beforehand. This is going to completely neutralize that, which I think is great. And then I'm going to set this as our new default configuration because for me, it's super useful just to open up Contact and have 16 stereo outputs ready to go set up there. So at this point, I'm going to click OK. It's going to ask me if it's okay to delete all those outputs, or it didn't, in fact, this time. It did that, which is totally fine. Maybe I got that wrong in my head. Doesn't matter though. We've got our 16 stereo outputs, and you can see they're going from outputs, well, 1 and 2 all the way up to 31, 32, which correspond to the outputs that we have here along Logic. So you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those correspond exactly to what we have over here. To make things easier, what we could do is actually label these. So maybe we're going to have kick, kick sub, snare top, snare bottom. I'm just going to do this really roughly. So toms, overhead, room. What you can do here as well is label these as you like. So I'm going to just duplicate what they're called on the Logic mixer so we can see very quickly. Snare bottom, toms, overhead, and room. And there's a really important step that we need to do, whether or not we are using these new names. We want to go up to here next to the NI button. Actually, somebody commented on the last multi-out video that I did to let me know about this. So thank you to whoever that was. I don't remember your name, I'm afraid, but I wasn't aware until you did that. If you go up to next to the NI logo and click this exclamation point, that's basically going to put all of this new information. It's basically going to make sure that Modern and Massive is aware of the new output state of Contact. So we do that. It did a little glitch there, and that lets us know that it's seen that. So let me just backtrack for a second. You'll notice that the kit currently, no matter what kit piece you click, we're only getting a single set of stereo outputs here down what's currently labeled as the kick channel. That's because we haven't yet told GGD to send each of its mixer channels to Contact's output, which would then come through into Logic. Sounds confusing, but it makes a lot of sense once you get it. So what we need to do now is go to, let's say, the kick page. Here are the mixer channels for the outputs of the sounds in Modern and Massive. And you can see that currently everything is set to kick. This is quite useful to have it labeled, because you can quite quickly see that there's something wrong there. If it was just called stereo 1, if you hadn't labeled them, they'd just be called stereo 1 or whatever. And you can see actually as we go across all of these pages, every single output is set to kick, which is obviously not ideal. So what we can do is we can set, we're going to leave our kick sum to kick. Then we can make kick sub, go to the kick sub channel. Likewise, sorry, that's not snare top, what am I doing? That's overheads, so I'm going to send both my overhead channels to that. And all 3 of my room channels are going to go to my room output. And now you'll see if I were to click on my kick drum, we've got our kick direct channel, which is this one. We've got the kick sub channel. Probably need to have a sub to hear that one. You're not going to hear anything on laptop speakers. We've got the overhead channel. We have the room channel. And that's it. Notice that anything which you set panning-wise in Contact is going to come through panned on these stereo outputs here. So you can do all of your panning in the program, or you can leave everything panned centrally and pan the outputs here in Logic. We could do the same thing for the snare. So we've got snare top, snare bottom, overheads, and room. And now you'll see as we click snare, just getting a bit of a clipping output there on there, but there we go. You've got snare top coming through there, snare bottom. You get the idea. So that's exactly how you can get the multi-output system up and running really quickly. I hope you found this helpful. Let us know if you've got any more questions in the comments and we'll try and answer you, or maybe some other user will be able to. But I think that's fairly self-explanatory. So hopefully that helps you guys out.